What's up, y'all? I'm here with Mark. What's going on, dude?
It's good.
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 We've enjoyed doing these. We're going to get back starting doing some of these recordings this year. Just kind of doing some different kinds of things. We've introed some staff. We've talked through some sermon series, or just kind of some growth topics in general. And the idea that we had today, kind of wanted to talk about, there's this word out there that Christians use when they talk about growing spiritually. And the word is kind of a fancy, multi-syllable, churchy-sounding word, which is discipleship. And I think discipleship is important, and it's a really important aspect of all of our lives, our Christian lives, and our faith with Christ. But if you just say discipleship a lot, it doesn't necessarily give you a meaning. You know, it can kind of feel like an intimidating word. And so I come to the local expert.
This is the best you can find.
Yeah, I went all over that Einstein's that we were at, and you were the best one there. So, man, if you were going to define discipleship, man, what would you say discipleship is?
That's a great question. The base of that word is discipline. So there's some degree in which a person's life begins to be disciplined around the lordship of Jesus. The way that that's taken shape, for me, a guy, pulled me aside and started to teach me some of those disciplines. This is how you study your Bible. This is what it looks like to have a vibrant relationship with Jesus in prayer. This is what it looks like to take that faith and that good news and to begin to communicate it to other people. This is what it looks like to engage other believers. So some of those outworkings of faith and following Jesus, but having somebody that mentors, that guides, that gives some picture of what that might look like, right, and challenges, at least personal experience, that's what I would say. I think you could probably come up with a lot of different definitions, but It seems like that mentorship,
right,
that helps move you towards a more a better picture of what it looks like to follow Jesus.
Yeah, I think one of the big things for me, and it happened for me in college as well, was when this guy kind of drew out this illustration for me and just made a difference. There was a difference between someone who was a believer, or the word that we would use now, a follower of Jesus, someone who has put their faith in Jesus. There's a difference between that and a disciple. Mm-hmm. A disciple is someone who has these certain characteristics about them, is growing in their faith, is, like you said, studying the Bible, is in prayer, is actively involved in God's mission in some way and helping other people find out about Jesus or grow in their faith, and all of these things. And he just kind of asked me, he's like, so, would you say that you're a believer? Would you say you're a disciple? Would you say you're in this process? And I remember being blown away by the question, and then, of course, feeling the need to give myself the best possible score. Mm-hmm. Which was completely and totally inaccurate, but I decided, well, if really good followers of Jesus are disciples, then I must be one. And then kind of spent the next 6 months figuring out that I wasn't, but then also working to become one.
What it would look like to do that, yeah. The one big thing that's jumped out to me the last few years is just when Jesus gives the Great Commission and says, "Go and make disciples." I've always focused on the different parts of that command, but the part that I missed for a long time is just that he said, "Go and teach them to obey all the things that I've commanded you." So there's a understanding of the things that he's commanded and the places that he goes and the things that he does and what he expects, but learning the lordship piece of obedience to him seems like one of the primary pieces of discipleship that somehow, has to happen.
Yeah, so if making a disciple means I need to teach them to obey everything Jesus has commanded, then for me to be a disciple would mean that I'm obeying everything that Jesus has commanded, working towards that, Mm-hmm. And so, there's different components to that. And again, you and I come from a similar background. I was talking with some guys about that even this week, kind of some different components of what that really means. Like, there's certain things that you need to know, there's certain things that you need to be able to do, and then honestly, and kind of repackaging a little bit, there's things you need to know, there's things you need to be able to do, and then there's things you just need to be. Like, like character and just internal qualities. And you put all of that together, and I'm growing in those areas. And now, like I say, back to our word, I'm growing in my discipleship. I'm learning the new things I need to know about God, about me, about Jesus. There's certain things I need to be able to do. There's certain qualities I need to have. That's discipleship. I am pursuing that. I am pursuing getting better in these areas. So what would you say to somebody who was like, well, this all sounds really good, man, but I'm like, I'm going to church every week, and I'm trying to be a good person. That's plenty, right? And that's it, right? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I love about the series that we're in right now and looking at these conversations that Jesus had with people is the way that there's this practical idea of following and this change of direction, this passionate pursuit of Him that is much different, that is kind of one of those telltale signs of a disciple and a true follower. That sounds much different than what you just said. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to do the things. I'm trying to do right, trying to be there on Sunday. Hey, my kids need to be in church. Hey, I think this is good for my family. That doesn't sound like somebody who's in love with Jesus and wanting to follow Him, So in those different knowledge, skills, character, and vision, kind of at the heart of all that has to be like, man, I'm in love with Jesus. It seems like that's step one of discipleship. Because you can tell when that's missing, then it's just laws and rules and rote obedience that has no heart. And like we were looking at last week, that's not what Jesus is looking for, mercy, not sacrifice.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think everybody's motivated a little bit differently. As I think about that question, I'm like, there's the thing that you say, there's like, man, Jesus he's worth it. I mean, He's done this great thing for you. He's given you life. He's given you new life, and you should be pursuing Him with your whole heart. And there's also kind of let's call it a self motivation. Like whatever it is that I feel like I don't have, like the things that's out of my grasp, the peace, the life. And I see all these promises. He's offering me full and abundant life. He's offering me peace and joy and purpose. And that seems to be elusive. And a lot of time it's elusive because I'm just settling for bare minimums or just settling for hanging in there. But then there's also, I think, a good external motivation. It's like everywhere I look, it's just brokenness and pain, and the world needs somebody. And maybe if the world that seems a little bit big. Well, make a difference in the whole world. Let's make a difference in one person. Mm-hmm. And in order for you to do that, you're going to have to pursue God and ultimately discipleship at a level that you probably haven't. All right, so now we got to get down to this practically. Okay, Mark, you've convinced me that I'm settling for ordinary, that going to church, it's not enough. I want to grow as a disciple. Give me three. We'll go three. Give me
only
three. 13 practical tips.
Well, there is. I mean, at a base level, if it's going to be the heart of wanting to follow and obey, so He has the say-so. Because if He doesn't have the say-so and that kingship in my life, then it doesn't matter. But then beginning to study God's Word alone and with people where I know what He said and what He wants and get a picture of who He was. And then, finding somebody else who I've watched them enough and have picked up that, hey, it's not that they've got it all figured out, but they seem at least like maybe one step ahead, and being teachable and humble to ask about that, to learn about it. Either one person or, there may be a group of counselors that you start to, hey, you seem to have a vibrant relationship with Jesus in prayer. Can we meet up and talk about that? Tell me about that. Tell me what, how you ended there and what that looks like,
That's good.
Learning from one another.
Yeah, I think we spend a lot of time at the Grove talking about kind of our corporate responsibilities. And a lot of those really are designed for discipleship. You should come to church on Sunday. You should be engaged with the sermon. You should be worshiping. You should be in a small group where you're connecting with others and studying together. You should be serving. I mean, all of those things are essential, I think, to discipleship components. But I think an emphasis that I think we need to do a better job helping people understand is not just the corporate responsibility we have, but just the personal. Like, I need to personally be pursuing growth. And so that's, I think, like what you said, I'm reading, studying the Bible on my own. I'm developing a personal prayer life. I'm looking for ways I can make an impact around me. And then I'm looking for people. I mean, it's not something you can do by yourself. I'm looking for somebody who can just help me. Hey, can we get together and talk about some things? Can you help me grow? And I think, again, if we take just a more personal responsibility, we'll find ourselves, I think, living out those promises, experiencing the things that God's called us to, and again, just giving God what He's worth, and then making a difference in the lives of people. And so our hope for you, I know it's a little late for it to be a New Year's resolution. Maybe it can be a different New Year's resolution since you've already broken all the other ones, right? And then you can start over and just like make a commitment to say, hey, this is going to be my year to really passionately pursue my own spiritual growth, or with our new fancy word, discipleship. Mark, thanks as always. Hope you guys have a good rest of the day. You guys take care.